Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk. My name is Pawel the Cat, one of your partial co-hosts with my other half, my better half, Evan Renaerts. Evan, how you doing? Welcome back to your studio.
Well, your wife's going to wonder why she's not the better half, but I totally get it. I'd like to just say that I am so thankful I'm out of the dark. And I don't know if you guys watched last week's episode when I was in the dark. I went back to listen because I wasn't sure on what the sound and stuff was like. Man, I feel like I'm slithering, and I'm talking like this. And I think I had a stroke. Maybe it was all the stress going down to Red Deer and everything being lost. And anyway, so it was quite the night. How was your week, buddy? Thanks for taking care of things last week.
Of course, it was good. I would say that it was our pre-annual Halloween episode where you're in the dark and we give spooky news about the NHL. But no, we're looking forward to having Halloween with the little ones this week, a little bit of trick-or-treating. I am right now, Evan. I know that everyone is pretty much swept up in the World Series with the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. You guys can let us know if you're cheering for either team or if you just do not care. But it's been fun ride watching all the excitement, all the atmosphere between the two teams because it's been one of the best. And I did stay up. Unfortunately, for my end, it was only till 1 a.m. That 11th or 18th inning that they went to. It was quite wild. I was like, all right, they got to score. No, the Dodgers got to score. No, they got to score. So it's been pretty interesting. But we're getting into it because the NHL itself has its own frozen frenzy last night. All 32 teams have been in action. And I wanted to get your thoughts quickly. Did you catch any games? Your thoughts on the event and anything else you want to share with us?
Yep. I caught the Oilers. I caught the Sharks. I caught the Blackhawks. I caught the Islanders. Of course, the teams they played with also. But I was following some of the specific players. I'm trying to remember. There was 2 more games. Yeah, could you imagine trying to fit all those in? How are you? I feel like and maybe you guys are very technological, even in the wrong words to use. You're very techie with screen, picture in picture. I got to figure out how to do that with my TV so I can get multiple games playing at once on the same piece on my TV screen. Man, that would be way more enjoyable than going in, out, in, out, in, out. It was quite a thing.
So I will say that I have a friend in Calgary who's a big sports fan, all sports. Like he'll follow whatever sport. He's really invested. And so when they got their new place in Calgary, he put up 4 large TVs, 50-inch each, on every side of the wall, so he can have different sports on every single one. He clearly is living the dream because if that was me asking my wife for that, she would say, "Get out of that with that silly idea." But really, I mean, 4 TVs all across your wall almost feels like a digital projection that you would have, right? And to focus on all 4, oh man, my attention span would not last.
How'd you do for all the games? Like,
I caught a few. I was catching like bits of pieces every single one. So you go from the Blue Jays game to the Oilers game to I caught a little bit of the Montreal-Seattle game to the Vancouver and return of JT Miller with the Rangers and the San Jose Sharks and LA Kings. Really phenomenon. Quick highlights. Cole Caulfield making the Olympic team for sure. He is a snipe. He knows how to finish. Although it was a little harrowing, and that's of course expected with a young team like Montreal to be up 3-0 and then let 3 goals, but then coming back in overtime. San Jose, man, I mean, they were peppering Darcy Kemper, and LA looked like they were going to lose it, but they held on just barely. And they've really picked it up after a slow start to the season. But man, I think Elliot Friedman said it best. Once San Jose learns how to defend, watch out because they can score in droves. And props to both Jeff Skinner and John Klingberg out there because they're having good seasons. And you need some rookie or veterans on that lineup. We know they have Toffoli, but you need those guys there in order to make an impact. So, and Askarov, I like what he's brought so far. Again, he's a young goalie, still unproven. He likes to definitely showcase himself as politely as I can say on the ice. Yeah. But he's definitely had some interesting moves on there that would even irk Stuart Skinner fans. So it goes to show you that goaltending, as we've talked about before on previous episodes, is a little bit voodoo. There's some, kind of unnatural way of how they play. But really, even right now, Evan, the average save percentage across the league, I think it's like 895 or 890. Like, it's not even above 900. And we're just getting started. So it's been interesting. My one critique that I would have for the NHL is that I like all 32 teams, but make it a Saturday. And I know I argued with people on Twitter/X about how, well, ESPN owns the right. Well, so does Sportsnet, but the NHL can input some stuff. I know there's college football. I know there's other things on the tube. But if you're going to do a frozen frenzy, don't do it on a Tuesday night in October. Do it in March or April when there's a little bit more at stake and there's a little bit more heightened attention. And I got to be honest, I mean, a lot of people are focused on baseball right now, so it's a little hard to get into it, right? Or am I wrong?
I like how you called it. You started off and you said the frozen thing. As you're trying to come up with the names of it. It is interesting that and again, you never know the World Series. I mean, for people like right now that affects Canada, it would always affect the United States no matter where they are. So you can't worry about the World Series part. But the fact is, you're right. It's on a Tuesday. You can't watch all day, and they could get games even way earlier if they did it all throughout the day, like on a Saturday. This is now the third straight year with Frozen Frenzy being called, where all 32 teams specifically, where every single team is actually playing on that same day. So that's not as common of a thing. I absolutely love it. I think that it's exciting for hockey to be able to do. But I think my problem isn't even the day, My problem is that they have just a couple, like, why are you playing two teams, so two games on a night, and then another day you have 16 games? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Spread them out a bit better.
Well, tonight you only have one, right? Toronto and Columbus. That's all that's happening.
Oh, yeah. Exactly, working with it. So
and my only other thing, and Zilstra's tuning in here, Lost Trucker. I hope you're doing well. Truly, I'm appreciating, liking, and believing in Celebrini. He reminds me of a mix between Young, Elias Pettersson, and Theron Fleury. Yeah, I mean, he has a scoring touch. He really knows how to put the buck in the net. But again, he comes from a sports family. He's been around it all his life. He knows. Hey, Key, great to see you. The Flyers and the Battle of Pennsylvania versus Pittsburgh. Evan, can we quickly just talk before we get to it about the Frozen Frenzy, about your Pittsburgh Penguins? They are 7-2-0. Who predicted it? Because I didn't. I know I had Washington low, but nobody expected Pittsburgh to be as good as they are. Your quick thoughts on what was going on in that game between the Battle of Pennsylvania, because it looked like a ruckus. Zegras got in the mix. There was some kerfuffles, some fights, some big goals. Bobby Brink ends it. Your thoughts?
So I didn't call it last year. I actually thought the Penguins would do better. I stuck with it all year. This year, I started off and said, no, they're lottery material. And long and behold, Malkin right now is lighting it up. Probably the third best player in the league right now. Everyone's saying, oh, this guy's ready to retire. He's 39, like just turning 40 years old here. It's just like what the heck's going on? And then Crosby, the endless oneer, the Mount Rushmore, 1,700 points. Crosby, I'm telling you now, he will only be the second player to reach 2,000 career points or more, right behind Wayne Gretzky. I don't know. Let's go back to last year and my article I even wrote, and we talked about Mount Rushmore. How do you not have him in there?
Yeah. 100%. I understand. But again, with the Frozen Frenzy, the one thing that I would also recommend to the NHL, and again, I know it's logistics, so we may not have that kind of control. And I'll get to Lost Trucker's question in just a bit here, or comment. But really, like, having more rivalries, Edmonton versus Calgary, or Original Six, Toronto versus Montreal. I know Montreal played Seattle, but like, you're already scheduling these things, Boston versus Chicago, two up and coming teams right now that are dealing with it, you can have these battles that exist, Colorado and what's it called? And the Red Wings, or you have them versus the Dallas Stars, right? You have Seattle versus Vancouver. So you build up these storylines. You have maybe Chicago versus San Jose. Who's the rebuild going to, right? Keith says love a good fight, and Lost Truckers there. What about that Atlantic Division upside down? Yeah, Montreal.
Let me come back. Can I just come back to love a good fight? Keith's words there with between Pennsylvania, with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Bring Skull. I'm not okay with that. I'm a Flyer fan too, so I love Pennsylvania sports, period. But I am not a fan of coming in and literally stopping the motion. It leans back in his motion and then goes ahead and puts it. You will break a goalie's ankles that way. I'm not okay with that. That should have not been allowed as an actual shootout. But, I'm okay that they won. I'm okay in the shootout. I just don't like how that actually was scored. And I feel like that actually should be illegal. And I'm shocked that they actually call something on that.
That's like the Kuznetsov thing, right? Like he used to do it. He used to slow it down so slow to the point where he almost like stopped. But of course, he just did it enough to make it look like there's emotion. But yeah, I mean, even really like the Atlantic and, with Canadians, Red Wings being on top and what's been happening. Now, the Maple Leafs have kind of figured it out a little bit, although they're struggling tonight. But really, Evan, I mean, Buffalo's rolling again. We knew Boston was going to struggle a little bit. The Panthers are really struggling. And now Marchand's taking some time away to help a minor team there, head coach for a night, given that the head coach, I believe, had a loss in the family. So good on Brad Marchand. But yeah, it's been interesting to see what's been going on. Any takeaways so far from the NHL before we get into the news?
I think what I'm actually quite surprised with this year. So last week we talked about early surprises, things that teams, and be careful because it's early season. I still say the same thing. Just be careful. Just be careful reading too much into the early season. I'm really thinking that I'm seeing something really good out of Pittsburgh. Love what I'm seeing out of Utah. But you know what? Utah, frankly, just got spanked last night by the Oilers, who were struggling. That's still a struggling Oilers squad. So that was a litmus test, actually, for the Mammoth. So if you start believing your own hype too much, too early, because teams are just gearing up, the veteran teams yet. So again, I'm going to say just give them 2 more weeks. Mid-November, you got a better idea. I'm excited about some of this. I want the Mammoth to succeed. I want the Penguins to succeed. Well, actually, I want the Penguins to get a high draft pick. Just because Crosby and Malkin are going to be gone in a couple of years with it. But I am excited to see them actually in the playoffs if they could play like that. But again, I'm excited about those stories. The story of Pettersson. What's happening with him right now in Vancouver? He's come in, he's been ready, but the way they're deploying him right now, the way he looks hesitant. I don't know what Lost Trucker thinks of the games that she's watched at Vancouver, or if you caught something there, Pawel, but I still see hesitancy. I don't see the same guy from 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think he's been struggling. He's getting more responsibility in relation to the coaching staff, and I believe that there's a lot more pressure on him, given that they are missing so many centers right now. Yeah. Hito, we know his history of injury, and that was my one worry when they traded for him. I think it's Sassons that's been their second line center. Bluger's out, who's normally that defensive third line center. A couple of years ago, Evan, they had JT Miller, Pettersson, and they had Lindholm, even though he could play wing, so it goes to show you how the depth really changed. And so one name that kind of stands out to me, and I know that he's waiting to play his 1,000th game, is Nazem Kadri. And would the Vancouver Canucks take a chance on bringing him in as that second line center? Kadri wants to win. He has the passion and the drive for it. He's still got a few more years on that big contract, but I mean, a little easier to swallow if Vancouver retains, but we'll see what happens, right?
Well, the question is he on
the and I think Garland's injured now too. Go ahead.
Is he on the 13 no team trade list, right? That's what we
Yeah, and that's the other thing, right? Like it's hard to say what that would look like, right?
I mean, that hasn't been mentioned, but it is interesting. I mean, he's open to Montreal, he's open to Toronto. So my guess is he'd be open to Canadian trade to Canadian teams. He is truly a true cold-blooded, I'm going to call him cold-blooded being living in the north, but cold-blooded Canadian. Maybe should be our new moniker, cold-blooded Canadians. Maybe they're warm-blooded, I guess, so they can live.
But you mentioned, and I know we were going to get to this later, but you did mention Utah. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on them locking up Logan Cooley. So he signs one of the last few 8-year deals at $10 million, so $80 million, and he's 21. You know, he put up 8 goals this year and 4 assists, so he's over a point per game this season. Yeah. But in 168 games for them in the last 3 seasons, he's got 53 goals and 68 assists. Now, you know, they lost to Edmonton, but they've been chugging along. They're 8-3-0. Your thoughts on the deal for Logan Cooley? And, you know, is this the last kind of deal we see of this type?
Well, yeah, 8 years. I could see maybe one more deal coming down on the 8-year. But, I mean, I don't like the numbers, but I said this last week. Remember, don't follow my numbers because I'm not basing it on this new salary cap. I don't like projections. I think that's my struggle. We were projecting you're getting paid this much now because I want this much. Otherwise, in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to ask for this much more. So teams have to keep adjusting. I almost don't like what's happening on the landscape because it's hard to have parity for people paying and hanging on to players because they know that times are changing. So it affects the overall game of being able to have the actual movement. I almost feel like there should be a freeze for like 3 years at a time. Like, think of McDavid's contract right now on his extension at 12.5. Like, I mean, that wasn't just a hometown discount. That literally was slavery. I mean, taking from McDavid, who could be making $20 million. You know what I mean? Easily out of everything. So, anyway, I'm okay with it based on the numbers I'm seeing from what it's probably projected, but I'm having a hard time again at this age. But you're eating his free agency years, right? So
100%.
His elite years and his free agency. So you're tapping into both. So hey, man, I appreciate the fact that they're locking him in. I did not think he was going to show this well. But what would you do? What would you do if you're Utah and he just? I don't know.
Well, they want to make a big splash. Ryan Smith wants to make a big splash. He wants to make an impact. He really wants to, you know, do something. And I know they're around it, just like Carolina, around any name that is interested.
Well, imagine what's going to happen this summer. Any big free agent.
Well, so Panarin is one name that has come up, but what Frank Saravelli was reporting was that even the Carolina Hurricanes are interested in him, you know, because they could always use that scoring touch. So, I mean, Utah's going to do something here. I'm sure they're going to be trying in on something. I know they were trying to be in on Marner. They were kind of on the outside looking in, so they weren't the four-foot runners. But again, you know, they're willing to spend the big bucks. They have a fan base that's growing, that's excited, that is hungry for excitement. They upgraded their arena before the new one gets built. They have a new mascot now, which we revealed on the show. The team is rolling on all fours, and I'm just excited to see because that's one of the things that I think will make the postseason. It's just a matter of who are they going to kick out, right? And speaking of other teams in the Central, it sounds like Thomas Harley has re-signed with the Dallas Stars, also to an 8-year deal with an AAV of 10.587. But he's a little older, 24. However, he's in his 5th season with the club, and he's got 1 goal and 5 assists so far. He also averages on average about 22 to 24 minutes on the ice. So he plays in big minutes. We know he was called up last minute to be one of the players in Four Nations, Evan. And so he had an assist, but he helped them win gold. And most likely he will be asked to come back for Team Canada for the Olympics. Your quick thoughts on the deal for them and the Stars, especially since Gullickson has taken over this year.
The price is a little steep, but again, I think it's remembering the times we're in, dealing with it. But right now, that Bouchard contract is starting to look good. And I know you got your Bouchard haters say guy can't play defense. Edmonton started weak. Guys, he's coming on. Like his game last night was a good game that he just had. And so he got 3 points. Yeah, just pulls out 3 points just out of nowhere. Just no, I'm not doing nothing. Here's 3 points. He's a game changer, and he's also the most elite in the desperate times and the hardest times to play in the playoffs. And Bouchard signs at a price that's relatively so close to Harley, and you're getting and I get he's a couple years older, but again, I mean, it's not as long. Otherwise, Bouchard's would have been much higher. That's the reason why with it. But I just, like I said, I feel these prices are just going crazy, and everything we thought is going to be all changed up. And next year, they're going to get all excited. And there is talk that it may even be rising higher. Like, this is getting I don't really care personally about how much they make or don't make, but I'd hate to be the guy who's dealing with the cap and trying to figure out how to manage this thing. This is hard.
So Lost Trucker says, yeah, JR slowly starting, but they all like to start like the kicking in because it's crazy to think that the top 4 of that draft, Slafkovsky, Simon Nemec, Logan Cooley, and Shane Wright, are all being locked up. And then he says, how do they already have tons of guys locked up? How so? Him and Lost Trucker having a little bit. That's Jordan. He's having a conversation.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot going on. I mean, it's been an exciting thing. And the one thing I will also note is Connor Bedard has really come up. He had a hat trick and 4 points last night in that game versus the Ottawa Senator. The Chicago Blackhawks are starting to look like the team that they should have been last year. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but they will upset some other teams that are trying to make it to the postseason and maybe get home ice advantage. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from Connor Bedard. He's shooting more. Connor McDavid, if you're listening, I know that's your mentality is to pass first, but Connor Bedard, he has a shot. He can make it, and it's been exciting to watch him. Again, the Chicago Blackhawks 5-3-2, in the mix there with 12 points. They're not going away. They're being a bit of a pest. Your quick thoughts on Bedard finally finding his game?
Well, I think anyone that's actually watched most of their games this season, which I have with the Chicago Blackhawks, how can I not? Just watching Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar and just watching how they play. I've been enjoying watching Spencer Knight also play goal. What a great trade for them. Moving out Seth Jones and bringing in Spencer Knight. It was a great move for Florida. And that was a pure hockey trade. That worked out perfectly for both teams, around it. So, I'm actually I am pretty pumped at kind of seeing what's happening there with those guys. I don't know if you guys have been following, but man, Rundell's looking like a beast. You already know he's going to be playing with Chicago next year, barring any type of injury that he might have to rehab from. So they're setting up really well. I am still worried about their defense, though. Defense takes longer to develop, and I think that this off season, that's what I look for them to actually make a big move and to bring someone in. So next year is their move. That's what I'm thinking with Chicago. Next year is a move. Who are they going to bring in? And I think you're looking 2 years for the move for the San Jose Sharks before they make a move. I think they're going to be.
I still think they pick in top 5 next season, next draft, which will be here to do a full live showing of it.
Their defense, right? Yeah, live showing. Thank you. But their defense, come on. So you're talking about being here for the live show, maybe, and I know we didn't start off with this. Why don't we go ahead and update everybody how they can help?
We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Facebook, on YouTube. Go give us a follow and subscribe. It really does help us. We are on Instagram and we are on X. We have a website, twoguysinhockeytalk.com. If you want to reach out to us, you can out to us through the website. You can email us. You can @ us on our X/Twitter platform. We love hearing from you, and we appreciate all our sponsors. If you want to get involved in sponsor and work in partnership with Two Guys in Hockey Talk, reach out. We'd love to hear from you guys. We love talking all things hockey. We've had a great time. We have a lot of things planned for the rest of the season. We are already episode 8, Evan. It's insane to think. It feels like we just started, but we're already almost a quarter way through. That's how quickly. Yeah.
Well, I guess 10, I guess we have just a little over 40. Well, 41 this year because I started a week late. I wasn't ready to go to start the season. I kind of feel like that lately. It's been absolutely. So I've had all these people calling me and sending me DMs and some texts Okay, what's happening here? What's there and there? And I'm like, guys, like literally, I have been overwhelmed. I've been lucky to get a few hours here and there on some of my updates and find stuff. So I'm like calling them and saying, okay, you feed me this time. I'm enough of feeding you stuff. You feed me some stuff. So yeah, so it's been kind of interesting, which when we get to around the rink, I'll talk a little bit more about. And tonight I am excited that we're going to talk our first opportunity here to actually talk about Rebs top 15 too. This will be the first one of the season.
Well, we'll get into around the rink in just a sec, but the final story I wanted to kind of allude to, and there's no easy transition to happen, is it sounds like former NHLer Ryan Kesler has been charged with 2 counts of 4th-degree criminal sexual misconduct in the state of Michigan, an alleged event that took place on January 1st this year with a 16-year-old minor. The situation is evolving still as we speak. He has pleaded not guilty. But again, it's drum up this notion of, the broader discussion of accountability in not only professional sports, but in the world of hockey, especially since we're coming off the whole situation with the 2018 World Junior Hockey Scandal players and everything that happened there. Again, Kessler's not returning to the NHL, but he was coaching for a bit, including his son, who I believe would have been eligible to be drafted, and he still could be. I don't know what's going to happen there in 2028, I believe it is. So again, evolving story. It's hard to hear because you don't want to see it. Hockey should be included for everyone, and people should not have to deal with that. It just breaks my heart because I know a lot of people did like Ryan Kesler as a player, but this is not a good look for him. I'm sure we'll respect.
It is important, though, that this is being reported and the allegation has been put out there, just again, so that we don't take too strong a term like Westwood does. That's always my concern. Like, yeah. I mean, it could very well be true, around it. It's just like it was like the Mitch Love stuff. There has been more stuff that's been reported on the Mitch Love stuff and, around things. But it's because they're fighting against this. And there's a lot of people. You know what I saw? I saw people going, oh, this is hockey culture. I feel like I want to rant on this because don't tell me about this is hockey culture, that we beat up people and we abuse people in hockey all the time. And variety. Does anybody follow any sport? It happens in baseball. It happens in football. It happens. I mean, it happens in the world and every sport, especially when you have money and or fame, things can happen. And it's easy when people are on substance, they're on painkillers, you got concussions, right? So the CTE, which affects a lot of football players, they end up because of that violence sometimes around it. So enough about the hockey culture. Stop with it. You guys are sounding ridiculous. It just stop saying it's hockey culture. No one, when I go to the hockey room and I used to play with my teams, we get in there. We're not sitting in here talking about that kind of crap. No one's talking about that. That's what goes on behind the scenes. And then we all are heartbroken when we actually hear about those stories. And no one usually covers up unless they're scared they're going to be involved, which was the Hockey Canada 2018 incident, right? Around that. So, by the way, can I just say, so one of the folks that if you follow us, and by the way, you can follow us, you'll see our tags at hockey_2 for Pawel and me at Renaerts on X. So, Lucillo, who is a very credible person. So let me explain to you guys who he is if you go on and see. So I can't tell you which team, but he is a pro hockey scout and scouts for juniors for a hockey team in the NHL. Most people don't know he's older and he was drafted as a goalie into the league and he trains over in Europe and he is Finnish. And he actually, so I did repost some of his stuff. He has shared, he personally knows Rantanen. So he knew all the exact numbers, why he wanted to play, why he didn't want to play. So if you get a chance and you want, he will release stuff. So the stuff on the goalie getting picked up for the Edmonton Oilers or interest in players, he's released a lot. And people always say, hey, who's your source? Who's your source? If it's not Frank Saravelli, if it's not Elliot Friedman, they say you don't know. Well, guess what? He called out Connor McDavid's contract ahead of all of them. I was going back with some people like, oh, look at this. And they sourced him as the source, first source. It's like, guys, where are you coming from? He knew this a week before. Actually, it was 6 days before, and it was he released it before they talked about that Monday opening up on the Kevin Carey show out of the Edmonton region. So, if you like a good source, and he's got some great critiques, and he knows quite a bit of information, so definitely give him a follow. He's actually fun, very knowledgeable man. I like to push out different guys that are not people they naturally follow all the time. So I think I actually went on a squirrel there from one thing to another there. So anyway,
okay. So you can find more of that news.
Two years getting hit in the head playing goal.
You can find more of our news and latest updates, whether it's Bruins weekly updates or Evan's tweets at twoguysinhockeytalk.com.
Okay, so what's Jordan talking about?
Pawel has his own McDavid sources. I do have a few, but I'm not going to share them. But
come on, don't out Pawel. He doesn't want everyone's going to know who his source is. Oh, can I just say one more thing? This is not about hockey insiders, but there is information that I share. So, and we can't give you all the information, guys. There's stuff that I know because we're from the Edmonton area, right? If I share certain things from the Edmonton area, you guys know people I might connect with, you're going to know information. So I'm very careful to not actually share it. So all the goalie development stuff that was going on early, I shared with some writers and a few other people, but I did not go public with it. And I wrote to them. They said, can I source you? And I said, you can't name me because if you do, then we get connections. But it's easier for us to talk about stuff that happens in Nashville, Carolina, Calgary. And it's called having connections around the league and outside of the league. People hear stuff. And remember, if something doesn't actually come true, like on a trade or a proposal, so what? People were still talking about it. It's just like no one knew. They knew that there was another person besides Mangiapane to actually come to Edmonton. They didn't know who it was until Roslovic signs. And they're like, oh, yeah, this was the other guy they were going to sign before him. But that lasted 15 minutes and they moved on that day. So just feel free to listen to people. But the best thing that I always say is, and I do this, if I mention I've heard something, I actually watch and follow that person and see how credible, how high a percentage of times. Like I don't go to not fourth period. David Picard is actually pretty good, even though some people don't like him. Is Eklund. I don't go to Hockey Buzz. I don't look at Hockey Buzz because it gets you all excited about trades that are just somebody made up in their head, and then occasionally they run into people they know. So anyway, that's enough for me chatting about that stuff.
Well, very nice. I mean, I should have used that, what's it called? That sound that you do to minimize our guests who are rambling on and on and on, right? Throw that in there.
I know what you're talking about. So what you really wanted to do is... what? Okay. Yeah, okay, I got it.
We've been having a lot of fun, but now we're going to get into Around the Rink. All right, we've got some news from around the rink. Evan, did you want to get us started on the BCHL?
Okay, guys, in the BCHL, so we know for people who have been following in the WHL, technically, they're WHL now. They were the BCHL's Penticton Bees. They're on hiatus right now. That franchise, technically, because it's a whole new franchise, technically, that moved over to the WHL with the people there. So now, lingering from the summer, the Bees did not field a team this year, the Penticton Club, because there's some with them going to the WHL, there was this conflict that they had about what to do with an existing spot they have in the BCHL, and they had to reshape the interior division to a top four playoff format now. So what this does is this does favor, if you're a fan of the BCHL in Cranbrook, by the way, one of my hometown favorites. You guys know who came from the Cranbrook teams? Stevie Yzerman, Scott Niedermeyer, guys like that back in the day. So, but the Cranbrook Bucks. For the Cranbrook Bucks, this is going to favor them. But there is some questions lying around timelines for relocation, and there is a possibility. So folks like Lost Trucker, you might like this. They are eyeing, and I don't know where, a Fraser Valley return. So you guys can think about what does that mean in the Fraser Valley and where. There's a lot of teams in that area. So speculation goes. So Lost Trucker, if you followed something, heard something, maybe share that with us. So what about in the WHL? You got some news on that?
Yes, I do. So it sounds like the Everett Silvertips and the Swift Current Broncos have retraded a former player that they had, and they reacquired Rylan Gold from the Swift Current for a trade that they had originally made to get him on May 8th this year, and exchanged this time for a conditional 2026 first-round pick and the rights to 2009 born forward Damon Vandenberg. They originally, Swift Current acquired Gold rights on May 8th in exchange for a 2026 first-round pick and Casey Gleim, who was also born in 2009. Gold has 66 points, so 29 goals and 37 assists in 60 regular season points games, along with 3 points in playoff games. So a little bit of a trade there. Pretty exciting stuff to do. Interesting because you rarely see it where a player gets traded to one place and then goes right back to that original franchise.
So interesting enough, Gould was in the NCAA. He's one of the first to come back.
Yeah.
So he wasn't playing well.
Which is why it made news. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so everyone, we talked about this before the season. Expect a plethora of players that jump too quick. They do not know what it's. This is not even about ice time. This is not about the hockey. This is about academics. And when you get into a university and you're not used to anything other than high school, and some of that is through doing work outside of your regular classes when you're in the CHL. So, you know, there's some days that you're out of class and stuff and you're making up. It's the exceptions I get. That's not possible there. You must attend those classes. You need to keep your averages. There's a whole bunch of, and that will affect some players. And some of them, their bodies are not ready yet. Even if they're bigger, that's not the way it works. So
100%. And I did want to, before you get to the next point, talk about over the weekend, I got to celebrate with my family a little bit. And
cool.
I got to go an Oil Kings game versus the Calgary Hitmen. It was very fun. Although the Oil Kings, pardon?
Tell us what it was like. I'm interested, man. I haven't got to see it.
It was great. It was fast-paced, lots of actions, and I didn't realize that Mr. Jason Smith, the former captain of the Edmonton Oilers, is now their head coach. It's his first year.
Yeah.
I know he's been in Leighton Valley for the Phantoms as an assistant coach, as well for the Prince George Cougars, and he was a Kelowna Rockets head coach. But, I mean, the guy's got a good head on his shoulders. He was a great player. He's a great coach. It was a fun game. Great atmosphere. It was for the kids. I took my boys. They enjoyed it. And again, wherever you are in the world, go check out your local hockey club because it may not be the NHL, but it's still riveting action. So I had a blast, although the Oil Kings did kind of drop the bag given the fact that they were up and then they lost 3-2. So it was good. It was exciting. Not much more to say to that. And good vibes. And I ran into some friends, including Jordan.
Oh, man, that guy never leaves. Let me jump on the train and just say, so you just gave me a great idea just right now, just randomly in my head. We love working with different sponsors and partners around hockey. Our show, we are not about being the next greatest podcast, the Spittin' Chicklets.
Yes, we are.
Well, speaking for myself, he is, but I'm not. We just love the game of hockey. I mean, we're passionate about it. Our wives can't figure us out. You know what they do? They say, that's his recreation. Just let him do his recreation thing. So anyway, just before you go to keep up the comment that you have on there. We'll come to that as soon as I wrap this up. But I have a thought, Pawel. I am going to reach out to the WHL franchise, the Edmonton Oil Kings, and talk to them to see if we can align something for seats or partial seats for the season to check out games on behalf of our reporting, if they'll let us in. And in doing so, we will give sponsorship to the Edmonton Oil Kings for the WHL franchise. So, guys, wish us luck. I'm going to make this happen. I mean, honestly, I thought about buying season tickets, but like, man, why do I buy myself in, and then half my time I'm actually watching so much of the game. I'm not just getting to be a fan and getting my money's worth. So let's kind of take it from a media perspective. So
well, Taylor here is tuning in and saying Taylor Kraus 668. I wonder if you're related to Lawson Kraus of the Utah. But what do you guys think of expansion and where? He says Atlanta, Houston, San Diego, Quebec City. Evan, do you want to take it away? I have my thoughts.
Okay, I'll give a quick thought. So everyone know we're in around the rink. Right now, these are not NHL locations, so we can talk about this. They're still talking about around the rink, just in our episode. Anyway, okay, so can you go back? What's the places that Taylor's got?
Atlanta, Houston, okay. San Diego, Quebec City. Go ahead.
I do think that Atlanta has the money. They have their arena coming in. They have everything set up. Will it work for fans? Yes, I do believe it'll work for fans as long as they have the right ownership. There's been bad ownerships in the past. That was part of it. The other part, Houston. I called Houston. That's where I thought the Coyotes would relocate to, but it had everything to do with, was it Morello? He was the owner. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. I've already forgot about him. Alex Morello?
Alex Morello.
Yeah, so it was because of him. Otherwise, Houston would have had their team already. Houston is the top front runner right now. That will happen. Quebec City.
I thought it was Atlanta. Atlanta was the top front runner.
Well, actually, that's just money-wise. We're talking about the team that's been in all the way through. So, yeah, Atlanta and Houston are automatics, East-West. Then it comes out to who's the next teams. And the problem with Quebec City is money now. It's almost got out of control when it comes to how much money. And they don't do revenue sharing in the same way, say, that the NFL does, where they have these massive contracts out of the United States. Canada, the Sportsnet is the big dollars, and that's nothing compared to the NFL. So I don't know if they can continue to feed that. I want a team there, not because it's Canada, but because Montreal needs a fierce rivalry. That would be so incredible. This is what I think. I think that Bettman wants to get these in place before he retires. I do think so. Or at least get him set. So maybe he does that as one last going away gift to Canada. And I'm not sure who the other team's going to be. But Kansas City is another rumored place. But San Diego, I can't see.
I'll just quickly say my thoughts because I have a different view on this perspective. I do believe there'll be an expansion to 3016, and I think that will be the end of it. Even though I don't think we should have more than 34. I think even 32 is perfect right now. But okay, you're already seeing teams right now, and you look at teams struggling to pick up certain players. And it's not to say there's not a pool of talent of players. It's just you're muttering the waters even more to look for those specific pieces, right? Taylor says Crony is building an arena in San Diego. The teams that I think are going to happen are Atlanta for sure. The third time's the charm because there is a market there. There is an arena that is potentially being planned to be built. And I think now they have a template with Seattle, with the Vegas Golden Knights of how this needs to look in order for it to be successful. And I indicated earlier, deep pockets. But Evan, here's my dark horse. There will be a team in Canada again. It may not be the Nordiques, but it will definitely be outside of Toronto. And the reason being is because that is the mecca where they can host a second team like a Hamilton and really succeed. I think the Montreal Canadiens would not want the Quebec Nordiques back in the NHL. Regardless of the thing, I think behind the scenes, I don't think they want that. I really think if there's going to be another team in Canada, it will be in Ontario. I know Ottawa as well, but I'm talking about a second one closer to Toronto. That's my prediction.
Hey, and can I just say, no, that's a great point. Interesting, the Canadian thing, right? I do think that Canada, there will be one more. So Taylor mentions talking about ownership, building an arena. Taylor, if you tune in to next week, if you come back on, or you listen to the show, you can make comments, or you can even send us an email or something. If you got new information, share it with us. I have a couple sources. I got 3 different groupings that I want to follow up on. San Diego, I followed up on about 2-3 months ago on what was happening. Sounding like you might be hearing some new things that I haven't been following up on the last couple of weeks. I will go personally and I will dig in and I will give a release about what's the possibilities of San Diego, of what is actually happening and some stuff behind closed doors outside of just building an arena, right? What could be the possibilities? So, Taylor, we'll do that for you, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And Lost Trucker says Quebec belts never came. I agree. And so just two more things before we wrap up around the rink. It sounds like it's been reported that the Penn State women's team has had a hot start. They've gone, Evan, 10-0-0, 10 straight wins from standout performances of their captain, Tessa Janke, and newcomer Danica Maynard. Incredible, great hockey. It's the first time done in the history, and you love seeing it. I believe, what's it called? The captain, Tessa Janke, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. She has had, let me just see, eight game point streak. So 7 goals and 7 assists. I mean, you don't make it any better. And Danica, who's from BC, actually, she's had 3 goals and 11 assists, and she was actually drafted earlier on this year, so for the season. So that's been exciting. So good for them. Good for the fan base there. And if you're looking for more great hockey, I mean, right there, women's hockey.
Right? So, okay, hey, let me get into a little bit here before we wrap up around the rink for my last piece. So we've been talking, like this dated back 2 seasons ago at the midway through when the BCHL brought in some AJHL teams, okay? So we went way back. We had Tom Gazzola locally from the Edmonton area. He had some stuff on some of his podcasts he shared. We got some great information. And right after everything broke, the news went flying. We've been involved. We've been on with DIJHL. I've even been in contact with, of all people. I mean, and I'm not name dropping here, guys. I was shocked. Elliot Friedman, even when I was making complaints about how Hockey Canada was allowing people to defect over to their sanctioned teams when they were never allowed. Luke Gravel, who is the general manager of the Campbell River Storm, sent some stuff out to me. We went depth. We talked about what the changes would be with NCAA. What do people think? We've done tons of stuff. We're even still working on just a timeline to bring a president of college hockey on from one of the boards on expansion. But let me just bring down a little bit of information that just came down. Now, this is interesting. There has been an NHL has led a junior summit now. So what's just happened is there were brokered meetings between USA Hockey, the USHL, the CHL reps, and they were hashing player development and also the shifts in the NCAA. So a couple things important. The USHL, they wanted some calls for consistent draft ages because what's happening is players that are under 18 are being drafted, and they want to make it where players must be 18 on the day of the draft to be able to be drafted. This could mean several players, maybe 40 to 60%, depending which way it goes each year, could mean they're not eligible for another year, giving the junior leagues that talent for at least one more season before draft. Because after draft, they can move right into like NCAA teams and stuff. And they're not just talk. This is, they're saying, listen, we need a response to the exodus that are leaving the USHL. They lost over 50 players. The CHL, the USHL lost over 35 players. And the NCAA became the feeder system that's leading now going to be into the future in the NHL. So USA Hockey, okay, again, the USHL, by the way, sorry, I forgot, Hockey Canada was a part of there, who governs the CHLs, WHL, OHL, and QMJHL. And then now, get this. Interesting enough with this, there is a big push. They have things like, for example, hazing. You were talking earlier about actions, things that happen, parties, all that. Things of hazing in junior hockey when they go to a new team, new draft picks. They are focusing on some of that stuff because that's why some of the issues have come out. Players have gone through suspensions. They're working on stuff like that. But the other part is they've made it official because it used to be, it's effective as of August 1st officially, but CHL players can retain their eligibility even if they play in places like CHL. Now you're like, well, they already started. Yes, but the full rules had not been implemented. They just had no choice but to go with it. So it's now automatic. And the USHL is bleeding talent. So if you think about it, they would not have had guys like Macklin Celebrini. Likely he would have been in the CHL. He would have went into the Western Hockey League before, because the USHL was how he would go into university. That was the whole plan with it. And so even Chicoutimi's Nathan Lecomte. So that was things. So there's been nothing formal that's come out, but they're working on billets, dip-ins, and they want to make a level playing field now for USA Hockey with the CHL, and they want to lift that draft limit. So anyway, there's some really good news around those things that I thought was really interesting. Anyway, that's it for Runway.
Alrighty, that's been some great information. So I wanted to get into a little bit more NHL news before we move over to, I know you have your Revs top 15 coming up here and some hockey history, which we'll wrap up on. But I guess the only thing left, do you have anything around the NHL or?
Oh, I'm good. I just got my, I want to talk about Gavin McKenna and Keaton Bearhoff, and then finish with my hockey story.
All right, let's get into. So, do you want to do Revs top 15?
Yeah, let's do Revs top 15, and then you throw your last NHL news for going to hockey.
Sure.
Revs top 15.
Brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music.
Hey guys, really appreciate. So Revs top 15 this year. I actually think, let me just kind of get this up. Everyone's been asking, did it get moved out, buddy? Oh no, there we go. Let's go ahead and show. I'm going to roll out my top 15 to you. This was my early season. I had this. Now, this is before the NCAA started their season. I've kept it in place so you can read it if you're choosing to. I'm not going to walk through all the players, but each week when we go in, I'll keep my top 15. We will change this. So on January 1st, I'm going to make an adaptation for mid-season, and then the next one will not be released till the beginning of June for the final, where I'm kind of sitting on it. So if you have some interest or you want to share yours, feel free to put it out there. Now, interesting. So there's been some talk. People are not liking what they're getting out of Gavin McKenna, who is the number one consensus, number one ranked. In fact, there is one or two pro scouts that are debating right now on Bearhoff, who's the defenseman, that could, right now he's still consensus, but they're right on the edge because they feel that Gavin should have made that change. Can I just tell you, going into NCAA hockey for Gavin McKenna, it isn't about skill and it's not about talent on the ice. It's about weighing that out with an academic career. Doing education, doing stuff on the side. And he is deferring. He was the big guy on campus for 3 years in Medicine Hat. Even though, if you guys remember when Jaydlin Lindstrom was the guy, everyone still looked at McKenna. And he knew it. Now, he's a young kid. He's the little puppy. And so just recognize emotionally what it does to these guys going in. Whereas someone that went in like Macklin Celebrini, he has a totally different personality. So be careful that you just don't rate it by stats, not stats alone. He did not go there just to get really impressive stats. He is working on his defensive game. He's working on other elements of his game with it. So there are some key factors I think that's important to recognize for everybody when it comes to his game. Basically knowing where he's supposed to be located, where he's supposed to be. So Guy Godowski has actually made some comments about some things that he has to work on. I'll get into that at another time because I actually want to focus on Keaton Bearhoff. So if you guys are not familiar, number 2 ranked, he was with Victoria last year of the WHL. He left early, was Keaton Bearhoff. Now, Keaton Bearhoff, guys, he's 17, 6'4", 212 pounds, right shot, and they're hard to find right shots.
Yeah.
And he's with the North Dakota Fighting Hawks. Now, he had only played one season. He is eligible this, 2026, this next NHL draft. Now, let's talk about what's outstanding about this guy and why he's ranked number 2. His size and his mobility. Think about it. 212 pounds. He has the frame. Scouts like his skating. His offensive upside is there. He's kind of like a Victor Hedman. How high could he go? Because he does like to focus on his defense. But he also has leadership and some other intangibles. So if you guys remember, if you followed him, U18, he actually captained Canada. And he made a choice, just like Gavin McKenna, to move over. Okay. Now, where he needs to learn, he's jumped into with older, stronger, and faster players. So one scout, even when he went into this season, talked about he's going to play heavy minutes as a freshman, which is unusual. But he's got lots of room to develop and grow in there. And it will be, he's going to have a game or two here or there. His defensive consistency is what they're looking for to continue to improve while his offensive upside. Now, here's the take. Great promising start in his NCAA double A career. His contributions, he's only at 0.67, but he has been impressive. Scouts everywhere are saying this freshman defenseman with his age, his size, and playing, and he gets hit hard. It's a physical league, generally speaking. When I say that, I don't mean hard body checks. I mean strong, tough play is what he's dealing with. But again, it's early in his development, but he is tightening up some things around his defensive game. I think he hasn't taken off ahead of Gavin McKenna, and the reason he hasn't had enough of an upward curve in NCAA. In fact, he's had a bit of a delay, just like Gavin McKenna has 10 points in 8 games. By the way, Pawel, who would think a 17-year-old having 10 points in 8 games would be a bad thing? But everyone's comparing him to Macklin Celebrini, and we all know what Macklin Celebrini is in the NHL. So, guys, be patient, be nice, and that's it for Revs Top 15.
Revs Top 15.
Brought to you by the electronic hard rock band Penny Billionaires. Look for them wherever you find your music.
All right, as we give Evan a break, because he does sound like he's got laryngitis, so we don't want to overdo his throat and make sure he has a moment to breathe. Before we finish up with hockey history, just a quick thought. I mean, it's been a fun season so far. We're getting up to American Thanksgiving, which will definitely impact how teams look and how they decide to move forward, especially since we're 20 games in. It's fun. The season's going by super quickly. It's a crunch time. The one thing that I know that has been kind of being reported on is Doug Armstrong and Bill Guerin. So a lot of these respective GMs who are kind of the GMs of the Olympic teams and Olympic rosters are starting to make their way across the team. And so I wanted to pose a question for the audience as well as for you, Evan, quickly on the spot, no pressure, because I like to do these. Do you think one of these two players comes out and or in, even as an opportunity to go? Macklin Celebrini and or Bedard. Who are you picking if you were Doug Armstrong right now for Team Canada?
I feel like you're just riding the coattail of Jordan last week with Schaefer and benching. I put Macklin Celebrini in. This has been a real breakout week. Connor Bedard has more experience, but I mean, watching Macklin, he is magic man out there. He's so smooth. He's not even intense. I wonder where he gets it out of him, and he seems to maximize all his opportunities. He has good size also, right? I mean, a couple inches higher, that's all it takes. Give yourself 3 inches more, another 5 pounds with it. Can I just say, though, if I'm Doug Armstrong, I'm taking both those boys. I'm taking both. I'm fine putting Bedard on my 4th line. I'm okay with that. But I'll tell you where I'm putting Macklin. I'm putting Macklin with Crosby. I'm sitting in Brad Marchand. We're done. Brad moves on. Brad's older. People are talking about Braden Point. Guys, I'm moving Braden Point down the lineup because without an outstanding year, why are we taking them? Otherwise, you're basically going off past accomplishments. So Macklin Celebrini, imagine him playing with Sidney Crosby. He will complement whatever Crosby wants.
For sure. And if you're Team USA, and we'll get to the other nations next week maybe, but if you're Team USA, I talked about it at the beginning of the episode. I think Cole Caulfield's a lock, although it's going to be tough. And again, I know barring injury and stuff, because will Matthew and Brady Tkachuk be both healthy enough to return, because they pretty much are locked in. But between these three names, who do you think has the best chance to make it in that didn't play for the four nations? Chris Kreider of the Anaheim Ducks, Vincent Trocheck of the Rangers, or Brock Nelson of the Colorado Avalanche? Or is there a name that we're not even thinking about?
Brock Nelson.
Would Tage Thompson even?
Yeah. Not liking what I'm seeing from him this year, and last year was kind of a fallback. I'm going to go still with Brock Nelson for what he brings to the game. He's got incredibly good smarts, and I think he brings some good leadership to the team.
Okay. Well, that was it. You guys can let us know. Now we'll get to hockey history. Just imagine, if you will, guys, I want to take you back and imagine, because I wasn't there, but 1951, October 29th. So how many years later are we talking about, right? So add 49 plus 25 and that gets your years. Yes, I can't do math. But I want to talk to you about Maurice Rocket Richard. Let's just take a moment. He scored on this night a natural hat trick in a perfect blend of hockey brilliance, historical bravura, and a touch of royal flair, and I'll explain that in a minute, that'll captivate you totally and enamor you with this thought. This was not just a game, folks. This game was a cultural moment that crystallized Rocket Richard's legend and showcased his unique ability to unite grit with grandeur. So they were playing in 1951 on October 29th. They were playing the New York Rangers. Now, the Montreal Forum, the old one, by the way, sold out capacity was 14,158. That was still the largest arena, just like today the Bell Forum is as well. Fans were buzzing with anticipation, okay, against the New York Rangers in this early season matchup. It was only the 8th game for Montreal. They had kind of a mediocre 500 start, and the Rangers were struggling early on. He comes out in the second period. He is 30 years old, Maurice Rocket Richard. He's a household name. Everybody knows who he is then. And he's led the league in goals for the prior season. He had 42 goals in 70 games. Now, on that night, he has a natural hat trick, 3 goals, okay? And then he turns this 1-1 tie eventually into this 4-1 lead. Now, let me talk about the other part that highlighted this night. It was the royal connection. It was Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip were sitting at the Forum. Let me walk you through this. Princess Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, who most of you know, and recently in the last, about a year ago when she passed away, that's the Queen I'm talking about. Her and Prince Philip were on a 35-day tour of Canada, and it was her first major public appearance as a royal couple. So the 29th game was a cultural stop on their Montreal visit. Cultural, get it, hockey, Canada. And this was only 4 months after King George VI's death. So they're in there. The Forum is decked out. They have all these press sweaters. Remember, your jerseys even then were sweaters. And the ice, they say in the articles that the ice was polished like literally a mirror. Just sheen. Now, fans, they're aware. They bring this extra level because they know the royal family is in there. And they are chanting, "Rocket, rocket, rocket," during this time of all these goals being scored. Now, at the end of the game, Queen Elizabeth remarked to the Canadiens' general manager, by the way, for those that don't know, the Frank Selke Award, the coach of the Montreal Canadiens was Frank Selke. So she says, that number 9, he plays with such fire. That was her words with it. Now, her husband, Prince Philip, actually was a sports enthusiast. And I mean, he would just seem just so excited and pumped with it. It wasn't just a hockey game. It was a moment of national pride for Canada because they're being connected and the
coming into the Commonwealth, being started by, England getting Canada going, and everything that had happened in those years. So this was a very, very special moment in hockey history. You could call it the Rockets World Command performance. But guys, that is a little piece of hockey history.
That was fantastic, Evan. Thank you so much for sharing. And that brings us to the end of another phenomenal episode. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We've got a lot of hockey to cover, so don't miss it. Make sure you set up those subscriptions on YouTube, on Facebook, on X/Twitter, so you can get updates and notifications every single time we go live. We want to thank our sponsors for partnering with us and supporting us to our love of the game, to talk all things hockey. Guys, we've had a blast. It's been a great time. Jordan says, can't believe they weren't Leaf fans. Everyone from Toronto is going to hate but any final thoughts before we wrap up the show and end it?
Yeah, so we got some new guests coming up. I do apologize. So last week we were set for Hart Levine. He got called out onto a trip. He had to fly out. So we were only going to get him for about 12, 14 minutes. And then he lowered it from 20 to 12 and then says, I'm so sorry, Evan. I got this business call. Hey, we can't hold him back from making some money or completing his regular responsibilities. So Puckpedia is one of our partners that we partner with, and Hart Levine graciously actually will come on our show, give us, as well as in behind the scenes, he'll give us extra information and stuff from Puckpedia, and we're able to get all that extra. So Puckpedia is your source. You guys check Cap Friendly before? Check Puckpedia. You have lots of fun with it, lots of information, news, and they are accurate. Unlike Pawel and I sometimes, we're not always accurate. Puckpedia stays accurate. And if they make a mistake, they're much better because they admit it.
They're better at covering it up. That's all. We're just terrible.
But anyway, yeah, so Hart Levine
they do good work, yeah.
They're working on the schedule. So just so you guys know, and then again, we got some other guests. I got some work to do this week to start lining things up. I was finding Pawel lining up guests 4 months out in advance. They're like, I can't commit to 4 months down the road for a free podcast. And I'm just like, well, dude, do you love hockey or not?
Yeah. Or we judge your love of hockey based on your availability to come on the show. So that is our metric. Those are our analytics, right? The higher the love of the game, the more likely you're coming on the show. So we got to balance it out. No, we appreciate everyone taking their time to tune in tonight or wherever you are in the world and whenever you're listening in. We love hearing from you. Remember to subscribe to all our social media platforms. We love hearing from you. Evan, in the formal words of the Ed Whalen.
In the meantime and in between time.
Keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
Great one, guys.